So there's just two bubbles we need to tackle here in bubble 8, A and B. C, D, and E are really free play bubbles where we just kind of draw and add to it as we go. There's nothing there for us to work with. So let's go ahead and start with A. So in A, we need to recreate this scene of the different animals jumping on a couch. So I went over to the animation tab to check to make sure everything is there, and we can see that they are. There's a background, a cow, a elephant, and a pig, which is all we need to complete this level. So everything is there, and we now know the names. So I'll go ahead and go back to the code tab. The comments in this one kind of talk me through the process. So let's go ahead and go through these comments to help us figure this out. So the first one says to create the sprite for the background. So the background is a sprite here. So that means I need a variable sprite and a sprite.set animation. We can call that sprite whatever we want. I'm going to call it background. And remember, those variable names need to match at the start of the lines. And then from the drop down, you'll go ahead and click and choose background. Now, if you're trying to run your code as I am, obviously you're getting an error here. One of the reasons you're getting an error is because remember, if this is a sprite, which it is indeed a sprite based on the way we've created it, we need one very important piece of code. We need draw sprites. So go ahead and grab draw sprites from the world tab. And as you can see now, it does draw the background. We're eventually going to move draw sprites, but for now, it works fine. Probably the same thing for the background, but we'll check it out in a minute. Okay, so now the next thing we need to do is create the sprites for the cow, elephant, and pig. So we're kind of going to repeat the process that we just did. But I'm going to have to do it 3 times because there's cow, elephant, and pig. So I'm just going to call them the sprite names, the variable names, cow and elephant and pig. And then for the names of the animations, we'll go ahead and pick the appropriate name. And I'm going to go ahead and run this code even though I know for the moment it is going to be incorrect because I just want to prove that it is working right now. I know it's going to be incorrect because they have all gained the same position, but I do need to move draw sprite. So let's go ahead and drag that down underneath. Yep, they're there. Let's go ahead and fix the positions here. Obviously, as you can see, because they all fit on the couch, we also have a scale issue. So we probably want to go ahead and address the scale as well. As you can see, that's shown down here in step 4. So let's just go ahead and drop them into match. We'll do this a little early just so we can prove to ourselves that this works. Okay, so as you can see, the cow needs to go a little bit to the right on the sofa. Meanwhile, the elephant is on the left and the pig is going to stay in the middle. The pig is quite small here, so we can probably scale this down significantly here. So I'm going to leave the pig values for the variable creation at 200, 200, but I'm going to give its scale quite small at 0.3. Remember, sometimes that will throw an error without the leading 0. So if you're trying to avoid that error, you might want to type 0.3 as in 3/10. The elephant needs to slide to the left. So I'm going to change its X value to 100 and see how that works. The elephant is definitely smaller in the model than the one that's drawn, even though it's covered up. But maybe not quite as small as the pig. So I'm going to go to a half on that one. The cow slides to the right, so I'm going to try 300 for its X value. But it's definitely a lot smaller than the one that we're drawing in the model, but it's not that different from the elephant. So I'm going to try 0.5 on that one as well and see what I like. Okay, so that's not actually too bad. The one issue we have is that because I've scaled the pig down so much, it's no longer resting kind of on that sofa cushion. So you might want to change the Y value of the pig down a little bit. Probably not too much. And again, remember, you can tinker here. So 220 isn't quite enough. 240 looks like it might be pretty darn close. Yep, and now I've got all three animals on the couch, so we have that part of the task done. Okay, so the last piece of code here that we have tackled says to update the appropriate sprite property in the draw loop to make the animals appear like they do in the model so that they're jumping on the couch. So first thing we need to do is obviously add the draw loop. So even though the draw loop is a green block, right now it's buried in the world tab. They will add that green block later on, so never fear. So let's go ahead and add that draw loop. And so the question is now, what do we need to change? Well, if they're jumping up and down, we are updating their Y values here. So that's what we want to update inside the draw loop. So let's add some Y equals statements with sprite names, of course, and we'll probably need to make those random to give it the effect of jumping up and down. So we'll go over to sprites and grab 3 sprite.y statements. And remember, our variable names here are cow and elephant and pig. And then you just have to decide what range of values are you willing to accept. So remember, because they're probably not going to jump down, all right, these numbers that we have for the Y values are kind of the floor here. Or in other words, the highest value we're willing to accept. Otherwise, they probably need to get smaller. So for cow and elephant, 200. For the pig, 240. So we'll keep that in mind as we add our random number block to the right of the equal sign in each one of these. And again, cow and elephant, the top number is going to be 200. All right, that's where the cushion is right now. We can't really go beyond that. And for the pig goes up to 240. So we'll update that accordingly. So then you just have to decide how much do you want them to jump. Well, it looks like in the model, usually the cow and the elephant are kind of jumping a little bit higher than the pig. So maybe a little bit more range there, or maybe we just leave the range the same and just make sure that the pig is always lower. Either one is acceptable. So I'm going to go with a range of just 30 here. All right, so if I'm at 200 for the max, back down to 170, and same thing for the elephant, and meanwhile the pig tops out then at 210. Now if you go ahead and try and run the code, you'll see problems because again of the position of draw sprites. So move draw sprites inside the loop, and you can see there's our jumping effect once we put draw sprites inside the loop. Good job, that was a difficult task.